I would like to welcome all of you today to the groundbreaking ceremony for the soon-to-be Point of Rocks Community Commons Park. My name is Jeremy Courtwright, and I'm the Director of the Division of Parks and Recreation. And on behalf of our division, I would like to thank all of you for being here today to celebrate this occasion. First and foremost, I would like to thank the County Executive and the County Council for their continued support for our Parks and Recreation Division and the services and development projects like this one. Our Parks and Recreation facilities and programs promote physical and mental health and wellness for everyone. This new park will provide a refuge for our busy lives and a community of commons connecting people to one another in their own neighborhood. I would like to now recognize some of our special guests here today. Frederick County Executive Jan Gardner, Frederick County Council President Bud Otis, Frederick County Councilman Jerry Donald, our Parks and Recreation Commission Vice Chair Mary Jo Richmond, some other Parks and Recreation Commission members Bob Failer, Mr. Howard Looney, Mr. David Twigg, and Parks and Recreation Commission member and Board of Education Representative Ken Kerr. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the Point of Rocks Master Plan Committee, as well as the many Point of Rocks residents who for their ideas, support, and participation in the park planning process. I would also like to recognize the design architect for our park project, who wasn't able to be here with us today, Mr. John Rohde from Human and Rohde, for his firm's efforts to get us from conceptual design to the groundbreaking today. Lastly, I'd like to thank the Division of Public Works staff and my Parks and Recreation team for making this day a reality. This is an exciting day for Frederick County and the community of Point of Rocks. Today we officially break ground for a new passive park that will quickly bring communities of people together to play, laugh, and learn. I would like to now introduce our first speaker of this afternoon, the County Executive, Jan Gardner.
Thank you, Jeremy. It may be a little bit dreary outside right now, but it is an exciting day here in Point of Rocks. And many of us and all of you have waited a long time for this to come to reality. I think I've been waiting for this groundbreaking for maybe 10 years. So I almost can't believe it's actually happening today. And we're going to see a lot of action pretty quickly because construction actually begins next week. So you're going to see this go into reality pretty quickly. It's almost been a decade since the Park Master Plan Committee met for the first time to begin to lay out their ideas for this community commons park. In 2010, when I was the president of the Board of County Commissioners, we approved the plan and the funding to develop and construct this passive park and community gathering place. Unfortunately, those plans ended up being put on hold for several years by the prior administration. So I'm really pleased to be here today to share this project with you, and as county executive to have been able to update things and revitalize it and get the plan moving forward. This 2-acre park is going to be a treasure for the Point of Rocks community. It will be a special place with trails, an amphitheater, play areas, a pedestrian bridge, and some markers to chronicle the historical significance of Point of Rocks. There's a historical sound comes into the distance. Some people may not realize that Point of Rocks was a transportation hub until the early 19th century. With the Potomac River and the C&O Canal, the railroad, trails, and highways meeting right here at this little village off of scenic US 15. Today, the community remains the southern gateway to Frederick County. Now, we thought it was going to rain here today, and it may rain yet today, and we thought the rain was appropriate. particularly for this project. I'm going to pause. All right. Many of you may remember the 200-year floods that were experienced in 1996. How many of you remember that? Okay, quite a few of you. 20 years ago, houses stood on this land and into the parking lot to our right, your left. And the repeated flooding in this area promoted the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and then also MEMA and the county, to spend money to purchase the properties, relocate the property owners, and to ultimately tear down most of the houses. Now, I can remember a few things about that time. First of all, I bet some of you remember a house that was located on this property that was close to 15, that always had great holiday Christmas lights on it. You remember that? And it was always something you'd watch for every season. And he also had marked on the outside of his house how high the floodwaters had come. So it was a marker in that way too. And I think that was one of the last houses to be vacated in this property. Now, at the time we were getting FEMA to provide funding to tear down the properties here, our United States Senator was Paul Sarbanes. So Paul Sarbanes came to visit the county, and we actually had a meeting at the Ruritan up the road, and he wanted to walk down here to see this area and to walk onto the Sino Canal because he is a lover of our national parks. So we were walking down New Design Road. Now think about that. There's no sidewalks on New Design Road. I was a newly elected official, and I thought, this is just the most unsafe thing for us to be doing with a U.S. Senator. So that sits pretty clear in my mind. And then we had one house that we had to wait to take down. And I remember talking about this with Dr. Bose, who was our health officer at the time. We had to wait to take it down because it was inhabited by a rare species of bats. So we had to wait until after the bat mating season before that house could be removed. So there's a lot of stories that have happened over the years with this property. But we are grateful to our federal and state partners, as well as all the residents of this community who came together to do a planning charrette for the development of this place. So today is the next step in that shared vision. Now, part of that vision for this space will be including an obelisk as a visual reminder of how high the floodwaters have reached. The obelisk will tell the story of a resilient community, a community that has proven time and time again that it really just can't be stopped by rain or floods. Community Commons Parks will be a place to celebrate Point of Rock's resilience and its strong sense of community. And I know that others here will say, you know, if we have any kind of meeting here in Point of Rocks, boy, this community always shows up for it. This will be a place that recognizes creativity. It will host the annual Art at the Point, and a place to welcome hikers, bicyclists, and paddlers who stop to admire the prettiest train station in all of Maryland. I want to thank Jeremy Courtwright, who spoke first, and all of his staff and our Parks and Recs division, our Public Works staff, all the county staff that is here. I want to thank the community and the planning team who stuck with us for many years to really help persevere so that this would become a community reality. So thanks to each of you for being here this afternoon. It truly is a great day to celebrate in Point of Rocks. And now I'd like to turn it over to County Councilman Jerry Donald.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you to everybody who came out today. Jan's right. This community is extremely active. I always get my best turnouts for my little community meetings in Point of Rocks consistently, and I really appreciate the activeness of the community here, the Ruritan, and everybody who's involved in Point of Rocks and the life here. I think this is going to be a great park. And when people talk to me about parks, often they talk to me about kids and sports and ball fields. And that's great. And we do have a big need for that. And we're building a large regional park not too many miles away at Othello. And we're going to have another one up here many years down the line near Point of Rocks. But there's also a need for other parks. The kind of parks where adults can come, where they can have activities, where you can have this amphitheater. I'm very excited about that, where you have places to walk, where you can have art. That kind of park is necessary too. And I really appreciate the foresight and the design of this park that can accommodate other people who pay their taxes and are out of the time when they're running their kids every place, although kids can come here and do stuff, but a park for adults. A park for kids, but a park for adults too, who can walk around, who can enjoy things here, and it's going to be great. So I don't want to belabor the point too long, but I think this is going to be a wonderful park, and I thank you for coming out today to help celebrate it. Bud Otis, as our County Council President, would like to come and speak next. Thank you.
That's the first time I've seen anything drowned out our county executive, Jan Gardner. Oh. Right. I used to live over in Adamstown, and I came in through here all the time. Remember the floods in the 70s. It's a great community. I've always been impressed by your love for nature and the outdoors and all that goes with it. And having served as chief of staff for the congressman for one of my assignments was the C&O Canal. So this is a big deal to me. I love this area. It's very historic. I can't believe they were able to build it with the tools they had at that time. But to have a park here, we need more of these throughout the county. Anything that's going to draw the community together more, I think is fantastic. And I want to commend the staff. Jeremy, you, and I saw Chuck Knipe in the back. Some of the people that make the county move and get things done. Jan gives the overall vision. I try to help her with the legislation with Jerry. But it takes the staff out here to make it happen. And you see them today, but thank them for their work because they really do a great job. And so I'm really happy for you. It's an exciting day, and I hope that you really enjoy it and have a lot of fun. My assignment next is to introduce Mary Jo Richmond, Parks and Recreations Commission.
Designed for the 2.2 acres, Point of Rocks Community Commons Park began in June 2015. Amenities planned in this park project will include an information kiosk, park sign, parking, picnic pavilion, restrooms, amphitheater, trail system, pedestrian bridge over the stream, water fountain, bike rack, benches, picnic tables, native trees and shrubs, landscaping, and reforestation. Some unique amenities included are on an obelisk to show historic flood heights of the area and storyboards describing the history of Point of Rocks, the railroad, and environmental features. The obelisk is critical to the park interpretation as it will be used as a visual depiction of the historical flood levels in the area. Observing the obelisk, park visitors will gain an appreciation of what the previous residents had to go through each time a flood event affected this area. May the children of this community, you and your neighbors, enjoy the amenities that this park has to offer, because seriously, there's not much better than being able to enjoy the great outdoors. I'm looking forward to joining you and others when we gather again right here for the ribbon cutting ceremony. I'd like to introduce Marcel from the planning committee that helped design what's coming here.
Pulling up the rear. But thank you. It's really an honor to share a few thoughts as member of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. And as we collect here this morning, I can't help but think back to the back-to-back floods and the houses that were damaged and the buyout and then the structures that were razed and the fact that we lost a good part of what remained of our historic town center. And this was a difficult transition time for many residents of Point of Rocks. But there was a sense that perhaps we could create something special in this space. And so the County Planning Department, shortly thereafter, and I think, Jan, you alluded, they led a community charrette that's part of the comp plan, small area plan process at the time. The system has changed, but we had a community charrette to vision in broad strokes about what the Route 28 Clay Street corridor could be, and this designated park space in particular, what that could be. And so, and shortly thereafter, in fact, there was another charrette that was organized by Maryland MTA for the Route 28 corridor. That had more of a focus on the train stations, but it really wasn't until the design process, the design phase for the park was funded and the advisory committee formed that we were really able to pull up our sleeves and start thinking about this park plan. So the charge before us, at least as we saw it, was take this property, which for most people passing by is an afterthought, and try to make something that is attractive and welcoming, and perhaps more importantly for many of us, a space that a way to help tell those stories about the rich history and the cultural heritage of this ground and the lands adjacent. So, with the lead of Parks and Rec and the help of the consultant, we met. It was a committee of equals representing different stakeholder groups with interests in the park. And we had lots of meetings, if I recall, and site visits and drafts and redrafts, and ideas floated and discussion, and we did not always agree. But in the end, we in fact converged on a plan that I think we can all be very excited about. And we hope that this park can be a source of pride and a renewed identity for this community, as well as a source of enjoyment and discovery for visitors to our area. And in fact, that this will be, we hope, a worthy complement to the C&O Canal Park, National Historic Park, which this adjoins. So I personally am very excited, looking forward to seeing this take form in the coming months. And I would like to close with one last thought. This did not have to happen. In fact, I'm surprised that it did. It required the resolve of our county leadership and staff over multiple governments, county governments, to encourage us, to challenge us to come up with a concept for what this could be, and to commit to a plan that in my view is much more than pretty paths and benches, and then to ensure that the required funding is in place and protect that funding with all the challenges on demands on county funding. So we're very grateful. I think I speak for the committee and for the broader community in saying thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, now we get the fun part, to get dirty, break some ground, right? So I'd like to invite, of course, the county executive and the county council representatives here, as well as a representative from DPW and anybody on the master plan committee, as well as Parks Commission members. If you could come up to the shovel area, and we'll get a nice picture. You can put a helmet on, and and we'll get a nice little picture of you breaking some ground. Thank you.
It's going to be a great park for the residents of Southern Frederick County and the Point of Rocks area in particular, because it will give opportunities for the people in this area to do things that are not just for kids in parks, but also for adults. The art festival can be down here. We're going to have paths all through the park. It's going to show a lot of history of Point of Rocks, and the amphitheater is going to be great.
Well, particularly Point of Rocks, it's a community center kind of, where people can come together and have meetings or have picnics and just bring the family and relax. The more opportunities we like this, the better it is for our community. It gets people out of the house, down the park. It's a great location, and it just makes a family outing for them.
I think this park situated where it is right here by the railroad station in Point of Rocks is going to benefit the citizens here, because as people are getting off the train and they decide they want to have a place to relax after a hard day of work, they'll be able to walk right over here and just relax, take the time to sit down with their cell phone, check their email that's come in, read a book maybe on their cell phone, and chill out for a little bit before they get in their car and go home. Other people who are coming into this part of the town can access the features of this passive park and then just walk around, hit the amphitheater, enjoy the amenities that are in this park, and just enjoy it, and then take the train, go to another part of the city and hit the road.
Well, the Point of Rocks Commons will really benefit the general community because it will be a place for them to gather and to host events. There'll be an amphitheater here. Families can come down and picnic. And I also think it'll benefit the larger community because many people pass by. A lot of people come to the area to access the C&O Canal or to come and see the historic train station that's located nearby. So this will be a place where people can stop, enjoy a picnic, and gather as well. So it will be a good place for the local community and for people who are traveling through.
Well, the amphitheater, I think, in particular, is going to be really unique because we don't have that sort of thing in our parks. But down here, you're going to have an amphitheater. You're going to have an opportunity for entertainment down here. We're also going to have a picnic pavilion, the paths. It'll be great for everybody.
I'm looking forward to the amphitheater. I think it's going to be really neat to have you could have community meetings there, and in the summer you could have a video presentation like we do in Middletown where they have movies and stuff. There's a lot of ways it can be used as a center for the community here. It's a strong community and very supportive of what happens in their community, so I think it's going to be used a lot by the local citizens here at Point of Rocks, as well as those in Adamstown and surrounding areas.
I am really looking forward to seeing the amphitheater and what the citizens of Frederick County and the citizens of Point of Rocks are going to use the amphitheater for. There are so many opportunities. We know that Frederick County is a great place for the arts in this community. There are so many things that the youth of the county and that the adults in this county can do with visual arts and performing arts, and I know that they're going to make great use of the amphitheater here in Point of Rocks.
I'm looking forward to seeing the amphitheater, the trails, the historic markers, the obelisk, and I think it is a passive park, and so I think it's nice that it's going to recognize the history of this area, recognize the flooding of this area. This was really the core part of this village or this community, and so it's nice for people to recognize what was here and to be able to come here and use the space with their kids to run around and play, or to access the canal, or to have a community event. So it's going to be a great place for this community. Well, Frederick County loves its rich history, and we hear all the time that they want to recognize and value the history and our cultural amenities. And since most of these houses and structures that were along this area were removed because of the chronic flooding, I think having historic markers is important. There's certainly still people in this community and around the county, myself included, who remember when those houses were here, remember the events of the flooding, remember the people who actually lived here. And so I think it's important for that history to be recognized and acknowledged for future generations.
What that does is really makes a place into a community. When you can see the history of a place, you can understand you're part of that town and where it's been and you know how it's got to be what it is.
I think that the signboards that interpret the history of this community are really important, because until you take the time to read interpretive history, you don't really know what's come before you. And when you read that and your interest is piqued, especially with the ability to walk around with a computer in your hand and you see something and it's of interest to you, you can just pull out your phone and Google that information and find out a little bit more. It's just the perfect blend of technology and old-fashioned information, and people will be able to find out so much more from that little nugget of information on a signboard, and more information from whatever resource they can find on the internet.
I think it's fantastic. You know, if you have a sign that tells you the history, a lot of people stop and read it. I do, and I think a lot of people will, and that keeps the past present. And I think it's very important that people understand what this looked like before, and of course they see what it looks like now, but it keeps history alive, and it's just fantastic when we can have the history kept alive in our community.